My name is Janie, and I am 58 years old. I drove 900 miles across this beautiful country to watch my only daughter get married. I had saved $63,000 over 25 years, penny by penny, sacrifice by sacrifice. Every dollar represented my love, my hope, my dreams for her future. But when I finally arrived at her door, exhausted and filled with joy, she looked at me like I was a stranger. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about motherhood. Before we begin this journey together, I would love to know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below. If stories about family love and finding your strength touch your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to 3 days before my world fell apart. I have lived in the same small house on the outskirts of Billings, Montana for 32 years. It is nothing fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom home with a wraparound porch that Harold built with his own 2 hands the summer after we got married. The paint is peeling in some places now, and the gutters need replacing, but every crack and creak in this house holds a memory that money cannot buy. For 32 years, I have worked at the Billings Public Library. I started as a part-time shelver when Brooke was just a toddler, and over the decades, I worked my way up to head librarian. The pay was never impressive. At my peak, I made $42,000 a year, but I loved my job. I loved the smell of old books, the quiet rustle of pages turning the way a child's eyes would light up when they discovered a story that spoke to their soul. My co-workers became my second family. We celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes in the break room. We mourned together when someone lost a loved one. We were a community bound not by blood, but by shared purpose and mutual respect. The house feels emptier now than it used to. After Harold passed, I thought about selling it, moving somewhere smaller, but every room holds a piece of him. The kitchen table he refinished one rainy weekend, the bookshelf in the living room that he built to hold all of Brooke's childhood favourites, the garden in the backyard where he spent his last good summer planting roses that still bloom every June. I kept Brooke's bedroom exactly as she left it when she went off to college. Her old stuffed animals still sit on the bed. Her high school diploma hangs on the wall. Sometimes when I miss her most, I sit in there and remember the little girl who used to crawl into my lap and beg me to read just one more story before bedtime. Harold was the love of my life. We met at a church picnic when I was 23 and he was 25. He was a carpenter, the best in 3 counties, people used to say. His hands were rough from years of working with wood, but they were the gentlest hands I ever knew. We did not have much money when we were young. Our first apartment was a tiny 1-bedroom above a hardware store. The heat barely worked in winter and the pipes made strange noises at night. But we were happy. We had each other, and that was enough. When Brooke came along, Harold cried. I had never seen him cry before, not even at his own father's funeral. But when the nurse placed that tiny, squirming baby in his arms, tears streamed down his weathered cheeks. He looked at me and said, "Janie, we made something perfect." He was a wonderful father. He built Brooke a dollhouse when she was 4 with real working shutters and tiny furniture he carved himself. He taught her to ride a bike in our driveway, running alongside her until she found her balance. He sat through every school play, every dance recital, every parent-teacher conference, even when he had to leave a job site early and lose half a day's pay. Our family did not take fancy vacations. We could not afford trips to Disney World or beach resorts. But every summer we would pack up the old station wagon and drive to Glacier National Park. We would camp under the stars, roast marshmallows over the fire, and Harold would tell Brooke stories about the constellations. Those were the happiest times of my life. 6 years ago, Harold got sick. Lung cancer, the doctors said, even though he had never smoked a day in his life. Sometimes life is just cruel that way. I took a leave of absence from the library to care for him. For 8 months, I watched the strongest man I ever knew grow weaker by the day. Near the end, he could barely speak above a whisper. But one night, he grabbed my hand and said, "Janie, promise me you will take care of our girl. Promise me you will make sure she knows how much her daddy loved her." I promised, and I have spent every day since trying to keep that promise. When Brooke was small, she was my shadow. Wherever I went, she wanted to follow. She would help me bake cookies in the kitchen, standing on a step stool to reach the counter, flour dusted across her chubby cheeks. She would sit beside me while I read, pointing at the pictures and asking 1,000 questions. Every night at bedtime, we had a ritual. I would tuck her in, smooth back her hair, and read her a story. Then I would kiss her forehead and say, "I love you to the moon and back." And she would giggle and say, "I love you to the stars and back, because stars are farther than the moon." She was a bright child, curious about everything. She collected rocks and leaves and interesting bugs. She kept a journal where she wrote down her observations about the world, complete with little drawings in the margins. Her teachers all said the same thing: "Brooke is special. Brooke is going places." In high school, she was on the honour roll every semester. She joined the debate team and the drama club. She had a small group of close friends who would sleep over on weekends, and I would make them pancakes in the morning and listen to their laughter echoing through the house. I remember the day she got accepted to the University of North Carolina. She came running into the kitchen, waving the letter, tears of joy streaming down her face. Harold lifted her up and spun her around like she was 5 years old again. That night, after Brooke went to bed, Harold and I sat on the porch and talked about the future. We were so proud but also terrified. Our baby was leaving the nest, flying across the country to start her own life. The day she left for college was one of the hardest days of my life. I helped her pack her bags, trying not to cry every time I folded another sweater or wrapped another photo frame. Harold loaded the car while I walked through her empty room one last time. At the airport, Brooke hugged me tight and whispered, "I will always be your little girl, Mama. No matter how far away I go, I will always come home to you." I believed her. I held on to those words like a lifeline for years. The money! I suppose I should tell you about the money. Harold and I started saving for Brooke's future when she was just 4 years old. We opened a special account and committed to putting something in it every month, no matter how tight things got. Some months, it was only $20. Other months, when Harold landed a big job or I got a small raise, we could put in $100. We skipped dinners out. We bought our clothes from thrift stores. We drove our cars until they had 200,000 miles on them. Every sacrifice was worth it because it was for Brooke. When she got that full scholarship to North Carolina, we were overjoyed and relieved. All that money we had saved for her education was suddenly freed up. Harold suggested we keep saving, but now for her wedding someday. "Every girl deserves a beautiful wedding," he said, "and our Brooke is going to have the best one we can give her." After Harold died, I kept contributing to the fund. It became almost sacred to me, a way of honouring his memory and our shared dream for our daughter. Every month, I would transfer whatever I could spare from my librarian's salary into that account. I gave up small luxuries. I stopped buying new books for myself. I packed my lunch instead of eating out with co-workers. By the time Brooke announced her engagement, the account had grown to $63,000. $63,000 of love, $63,000 of hope, $63,000 of two parents' dreams for their only child. That money was never just money to me. It was Harold's overtime hours. It was birthday presents we did not buy for ourselves. It was vacations we did not take. It was 25 years of saying, not for us, but for her. I thought Brooke understood that. I thought she knew what that money represented. I was wrong. 3 years ago, Brooke called me with exciting news. She had met someone. His name was Derek, and she was crazy about him. I could hear the happiness in her voice, that breathless excitement of new love. She told me all about him. He was 31 at the time, worked in finance, came from a good family in Charlotte. His father owned a successful real estate development company. They had met at a charity gala that Brooke's marketing firm had organised. "Mama, he is so smart and sophisticated," she gushed. "He knows about wine and art and all these things I never learned about growing up. He is teaching me so much." I was happy for her. Of course I was. But something in the way she said that last part gave me pause. All these things I never learned about growing up. As if her childhood had been somehow lacking. As if Harold and I had failed to give her something important. I pushed the thought aside. I was being oversensitive, I told myself. She was in love. Young people in love say silly things. A few weeks later, I had my first conversation with Derek. Brooke set up a video call so we could meet virtually. He was handsome, I suppose, in that polished way that men with money often are. Perfect hair, expensive shirt, confident smile that did not quite reach his eyes. He was polite enough. Asked about my work at the library, about the weather in Montana, but there was something distant in his manner, like he was going through the motions of a social obligation rather than genuinely trying to connect with his girlfriend's mother. When the call ended, I felt uneasy, but could not pinpoint why. I called my sister Margaret that night. "Maybe I am just being a protective mama bear," I said. "Maybe I would find something wrong with any man who tried to take my baby away." Margaret, ever the pragmatist, said, "Give it time, Janie. You have only talked to him once. Reserve judgment." So I did. I reserved judgment, but over the next 3 years, I watched my daughter slowly become a stranger. The changes were gradual at first. Brooke used to call me every Sunday evening without fail. We would talk for an hour or more, catching up on our weeks, sharing stories, laughing about nothing and everything. But after she started dating Derek, the calls became less frequent. Every Sunday became every other Sunday, then once a month, then only when I called first. When we did talk, the conversations felt different. Rushed, superficial. She would tell me about restaurants she and Derek had tried, trips they were planning, parties they had attended, but she never asked about my life anymore. She never asked about the library, or my co-workers, or whether the roses Harold planted were still blooming. I tried not to take it personally. She was busy with her career, busy with her relationship. That was normal for a young woman in her late 20s. I told myself to be patient. But then she started cancelling visits. 3 times in 1 year she was supposed to come home to Montana. 3 times she called a few days before with an excuse. Derek's family had invited them somewhere. She had a work emergency. They were looking at new apartments and needed the weekend to move. I started to feel like an afterthought, like an item on her to-do list that kept getting pushed to the bottom. 2 years ago, I decided to visit her in North Carolina. I saved up for the plane ticket, took time off from work, and flew across the country to see my daughter. Brooke and Derek were living together by then, in a sleek, modern apartment in an upscale part of Charlotte. Everything was white and grey and glass. Beautiful, I suppose, but cold. There were no family photos on the walls, no cosy blankets draped over the couches. It looked like something from a magazine, not a home. The first night, Derek's mother came over for dinner. Lorraine. She was 60 at the time, impeccably dressed, dripping with jewellery that probably cost more than I made in a year. She looked me up and down when we were introduced, taking in my department store dress and sensible shoes. "So," she said, settling into her chair like a queen taking her throne, "Brooke tells me you work at a library. How quaint. Is that fulfilling work?" Her tone made it clear she did not think it could possibly be fulfilling. I felt my cheeks flush. "I love my job," I said. "There is nothing more rewarding than connecting people with stories that change their lives." Lorraine smiled thinly. How sweet. The dinner went downhill from there. Lorraine dominated the conversation, talking about her various committees and charity boards, name-dropping people I had never heard of. When she asked where I had gone to college, I admitted I had only completed 2 years at a community college before getting married. "Ah," she said, as if that explained everything. I kept glancing at Brooke, waiting for her to defend me, to change the subject, to do something. But my daughter sat, silent eyes fixed on her plate, pushing food around with her fork. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in the guest room of my daughter's apartment and stared at the ceiling, wondering when I had become someone she was ashamed of. I cut the trip short by 2 days. I told Brooke I had forgotten about a commitment at the library. She did not argue. She did not ask me to stay. She just nodded and said, "Okay, Mama, travel safe." At the airport, she hugged me goodbye, but the hug felt different, stiff, obligatory. Not like the hugs she used to give me, the ones that lasted forever, because neither of us wanted to let go. 6 months ago, Brooke called to tell me she was engaged. Derek had proposed at some fancy restaurant in Paris during a trip for her birthday. She described the ring, a 3-carat diamond set in platinum, and the celebration dinner afterward with his parents. "We are thinking of a fall wedding," she said. "October, probably, at the country club where Derek's family are members." I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Joy for my daughter, grief that Harold was not there to share this moment, anxiety about the wedding I had been saving for all these years. "Brooke, honey, you know that your father and I have been saving for your wedding since you were little," I said. "The account has $63,000 in it. I want to give it to you to help make your day special." There was a pause. Then Brooke said, "That would be great, Mama. Actually, 63,000 is perfect. The venue deposit alone is almost 30,000. Something about her tone bothered me. She was talking about the money like it was expected, like it was owed to her, not like it was a gift from her mother's heart. Over the following months, I heard very little about the wedding planning. I offered to help. I asked if she wanted me to come out early to assist with preparations. Every time the answer was the same. "We have got it under control, Mama. Lorraine is handling most of it." Lorraine. Of course Lorraine was handling it. I was just the woman writing the check. I was not invited to look at dresses. I was not consulted on flowers or music or food. I was not asked to help address invitations or make favours. All the mother of the bride traditions I had dreamed of sharing with my daughter, they happened without me 1,500 miles away, with another woman in my place. Then there was the matter of the invitation. It arrived 2 weeks before the wedding, which struck me as odd. Most wedding invitations go out 6 to 8 weeks in advance, but I told myself the mail must have been delayed, or maybe they had sent save the dates that got lost. There had to be an explanation. The invitation itself was beautiful. Thick cream-coloured paper, elegant script, all the details about the ceremony and reception at the Charlotte Country Club. But when I looked closely at the envelope, I noticed something strange. The address was handwritten, but it was not Brooke's handwriting. I had been reading my daughter's writing for nearly 30 years. I knew every loop and curve of her letters. This was not her hand. I called Brooke to confirm I was coming to ask about hotel recommendations, to see if there was anything I could bring or do. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Hey, Mama, what is up?" "I got the invitation," I said. "I am so excited. I was thinking of driving out so I can bring your grandmother's china as a wedding gift. It would not survive shipping." "Oh," she said. Yeah, sure, that sounds fine." "Brooke, is everything okay? You sound strange." "I am just busy, Mama. There is so much to do before the wedding. Look, I have to go. We will talk later." "Okay." The line went dead before I could say goodbye. That night, I sat in my kitchen and tried to shake the feeling that something was very wrong. My daughter was getting married in 2 weeks, and she could barely spare 5 minutes to talk to her own mother. But I pushed the doubt aside. This was my baby girl. She loved me. She wanted me there. She was just stressed and overwhelmed. Everything would be fine once I arrived and could help in person. At least that is what I told myself. I decided to drive instead of flying. The plane tickets were astronomical, over $800 for a round-trip flight during peak wedding season. That was money I could spend on a nice gift for Brooke instead. Besides, there was something appealing about the journey. 900 miles of open road time to think time to prepare myself emotionally for watching my little girl become someone's wife. Harold and I had always loved road trips. This would be my way of bringing him along in spirit. I spent 3 days getting ready. I took my car, a 12-year-old Toyota Camry, with 160,000 miles on it, to my mechanic. He changed the oil, checked the tires, and gave me a thumbs up. "She will get you there and back, no problem," he said. I packed carefully. My outfit for the wedding, a navy blue dress I had found on sale at a department store in Billings. It was simple but elegant, or at least I thought so. I had tried it on a dozen times, turning in front of the mirror, imagining the moment I would see Brooke in her wedding gown. I also packed the gift, not just the money which I would transfer electronically before the wedding, but a physical gift as well, my grandmother's music box. It was over 100 years old, made of carved walnut, with a delicate porcelain figure of a dancing girl on top. When you opened the lid, it played a tinkling melody that my grandmother used to hum while she rocked me to sleep. Every woman in my family had received this music box on her wedding day. My grandmother gave it to my mother gave it to me, and now I would give it to Brooke. I left Billings at 5 in the morning on a Thursday. The wedding was Saturday afternoon. I had planned to arrive Friday evening, giving myself plenty of time to rest before the big day. The first hours of driving were magical. I watched the sun rise over the Montana plains, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The road stretched ahead of me, endless and full of possibility. I put on a playlist of old songs, the ones Brooke used to love when she was little. We would sing them together in the car on the way to school, our voices blending in silly harmony. Those songs made me cry a little. Happy tears, I thought. Nostalgic tears. I stopped for breakfast at a diner in Wyoming. The waitress was friendly, asking where I was headed. "North Carolina," I said proudly. "My daughter is getting married." "How wonderful!" she exclaimed. "You must be so excited." "I am," I said. "I am the happiest mother in the world." After breakfast, I called Margaret to check in. She asked how I was holding up. "I am good," I told her, a little nervous but mostly just excited. "Have you talked to Brooke?" "I tried calling yesterday, but she did not answer. She is probably swamped with last-minute preparations." Margaret was quiet for a moment. "Janie, can I be honest with you?" "Of course." "I am worried about the way Brooke has been treating you, about how distant she has become. I want you to be prepared, in case things do not go the way you hope." I felt a flash of irritation. "Margaret, she is getting married. She is busy. That is all. Everything will be fine once I am there." "Okay," my sister said, but she did not sound convinced. "Just call me if you need anything. I love you." "I love you too." I drove on, trying to push Margaret's concerns out of my mind. She meant well, but she did not understand. She had never had children. She did not know the bond between a mother and daughter. No matter how rocky things had been lately, Brooke was still my baby. Blood was thicker than water. By evening, I had crossed into Nebraska. I found a budget motel just off the highway and checked in for the night. The room was clean, but sparse. A double bed with a floral comforter, a small television bolted to the dresser, a bathroom that smelled faintly of bleach. I tried calling Brooke again. No answer. I left a voicemail. "Hi, sweetie, it is Mama. I am in Nebraska now, about halfway there. I should arrive tomorrow evening. I cannot wait to see you and help with any last-minute things. Call me when you get a chance. Love you." I texted her the same information. The message showed as delivered but not read. That night, I laid out my wedding outfit on the spare bed. The navy dress, my pearl necklace that Harold had given me on our 10th anniversary, the sensible heels I had practiced walking in so I would not stumble. I looked at it all and imagined the moment Brooke would walk down the aisle. I fell asleep with a smile on my face. The second day of driving was harder. The novelty of the open road had worn off, replaced by the monotony of endless highway. My back ached, my eyes grew tired. I stopped more frequently for coffee and stretching. I tried calling Brooke twice more, both times no answer. I told myself not to worry. She was a bride 2 days before her wedding. Of course she was busy. Of course she could not drop everything to chat with her mother. It was fine. Everything was fine. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered that something was not right. I spent the second night in a motel in Missouri. Before bed, I took out the music box and wound it up, letting the melody fill the small room. I thought about all the women in my family who had held this treasure, all the love that had been passed down through generations. Tomorrow I would give it to Brooke. Tomorrow I would look into my daughter's eyes and tell her how proud I was of the woman she had become. Tomorrow everything would be okay. The third day, I pushed hard, determined to make it to Charlotte by evening. I drove through Missouri, across a corner of Illinois, through Kentucky, and into Tennessee. The landscape changed around me, mountains rising in the distance, trees growing thicker and greener. As I crossed into North Carolina, I felt my heart begin to race. I was so close now. In just a few hours, I would see my daughter. I called her one more time. To my shock, she actually answered. "Hello." Her voice was strange, tight, controlled. "Brooke, honey, it is Mama. I have been trying to reach you." "I know. I have been busy. I just crossed into North Carolina. I should be in Charlotte in about 3 hours. I am staying at the Hampton Inn on 4th Street. I thought maybe we could have breakfast together tomorrow morning before the craziness begins." There was a long pause. So long I thought the call had dropped. "Brooke, are you there?" "Yeah, I am here." Another pause. "Mama, where exactly are you?" "I told you I just entered North Carolina. I have been driving for 3 days." "Driving?" She sounded surprised, maybe even alarmed. "You drove?" "Yes, honey. Remember I told you I was going to bring Grandma's china? It would not survive being shipped." "Right, okay. I have to go. We will figure something out." "Figure what out, Brooke? What is going on?" "Nothing. Everything is fine. I just have to go. I will call you later." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Something was definitely wrong, but what could I do except keep driving? I was so close now. Whatever was happening, I would deal with it when I arrived. The Hampton Inn was nice enough, a standard chain hotel, clean and anonymous. I checked in, took a shower, and tried to wash away the exhaustion of 3 days on the road. I called Brooke again. No answer. I called Derek. His phone went straight to voicemail. I sent texts to both of them. Neither replied. Finally, around 10 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Brooke. "Mama." Her voice was flat. "You are really in Charlotte?" "Yes, baby. I am at the hotel. I am so excited to see you tomorrow. What time should I come over?" Silence. "Brooke." "Yeah, okay, I guess. Come by around 9. We are getting ready at Derek's parents' house." "Wonderful. I will be there. I love you, sweetheart." "Okay, bye." She hung up without saying she loved me back. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed phone in my hand, trying to make sense of what was happening. My daughter sounded like a stranger, like she was talking to someone she barely knew, not the woman who had given birth to her, raised her, loved her every day of her life. But I was tired, so tired. 3 days of driving had drained me physically and emotionally. I was not thinking clearly. Tomorrow, when I saw her face to face, everything would make sense. It had to. I set my alarm for 7, said a prayer for my daughter's happiness, and fell into a restless sleep. I woke before my alarm, too anxious to sleep any longer. I took extra care getting ready, wanting to look my best for my daughter's wedding day. I styled my hair in soft waves, applied makeup more carefully than I had in years, and put on my navy dress. Looking in the mirror, I saw a woman who looked older than I felt. The years had left their marks, lines around my eyes, and grey streaks in my hair that no amount of dye could fully hide. But I also saw a woman who had loved deeply and sacrificed willingly and never stopped believing in her child. I fastened the pearl necklace around my neck and touched the smooth beads gently. "I am doing this for both of us, Harold," I whispered. "I am going to watch our baby get married." I packed the music box carefully in my purse, along with a handkerchief in case I cried, which I certainly expected to do. Then I drove to the address Brooke had given me. The house was not a house. It was a mansion. A sprawling estate set back from the road, surrounded by manicured gardens and tall iron gates. There were cars everywhere, luxury vehicles gleaming in the morning sun, catering trucks, florist vans, a tent being erected on the back lawn. I parked on the street far from the driveway because there did not seem to be any space for my dusty old Camry among all those BMWs and Mercedes. Walking up the long driveway, I felt increasingly out of place. Everyone I passed seemed to be rushing somewhere important, carrying garment bags, or flower arrangements, or clipboards with complicated schedules. No one looked at me. No one asked if I needed help. I reached the front door and rang the bell. A moment later, the door opened, and there was Brooke. My heart stopped. She was beautiful. Even with her hair in curlers and a silk robe tied around her waist, she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. My baby, my little girl. "Brooke," I breathed, reaching out to embrace her. But she did not step forward. She stepped back. Her face went pale, then flushed. Her eyes widened with something that looked horribly like alarm. "Mama, what are you? Sorry, I did not know you were coming." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually staggered backward. "What do you mean? Of course I was coming. It is your wedding day. I drove 900 miles to be here." Brooke glanced over her shoulder nervously. Someone inside called her name. She turned back to me, and her expression hardened into something I did not recognize. "Look, Mama, this is not a good time. I am in the middle of getting ready. Maybe you should go back to your hotel, and I will call you later." "Go back to my—" "Brooke, what is happening? I do not understand." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You were not supposed to actually come. The invitation was just a formality. The money was your contribution. That was the arrangement." "What arrangement? I never agreed to any arrangement. I am your mother." "Of course I was going to come to your wedding." "Mama, please, you are making a scene." I was not making a scene. I was standing on a doorstep, talking to my own daughter, trying to understand why she was treating me like an unwanted solicitor. Before I could respond, Brooke glanced behind her again, then stepped outside and pulled the door partially closed. "Look," she said, her voice tight. "Lorraine planned everything. The guest list was carefully curated. There is a seating chart, a program, a whole system. You were not included in the planning because we assumed you would not actually show up. The $63,000 was supposed to be your way of participating without being physically present." I could not believe what I was hearing. "You thought I would send money to my only daughter's wedding and not come myself, Brooke. I have been dreaming of this day since you were born." "I know, but—" She trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "But what?" "But this is not your world, Mama. You would not fit in. These people, they are not like us. They are not like you. I have worked so hard to build a life here, and I cannot have you showing up and reminding everyone where I came from." The door behind her opened wider. Derek stepped out. He was dressed in an expensive-looking robe, his hair perfectly styled, his face wearing that same distant expression I remembered from our video calls. "What is going on here?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "It is my mother," Brooke said. "She actually came." Derek looked at me the way one might look at an unexpected bill in the mail, annoyed, inconvenienced, but not surprised. "Mrs. Patterson," he said, and I noticed he did not call me. Janie did not even attempt familiarity. I think there has been a misunderstanding. When Brooke mentioned your generous contribution to our wedding fund, we assumed that was your way of celebrating with us from afar. Given the distance and your circumstances, we did not expect you to make the trip. My circumstances, your work schedule, I mean, and the expense of travel. I drove, I said, 3 days, 900 miles, to see my daughter get married. Derek exchanged a glance with Brooke. Something passed between them, some silent communication I was not privy to. Look, Derek said, turning back to me. Brooke cares about you. We both do. But today is not the day for complicated family dynamics. Perhaps it would be best if you watched from a distance. There is a viewing area for the public on the east side of the property. The public? I felt dizzy. This could not be happening. I am not the public. I am the mother of the bride. Technically, yes, but the mother of the bride role has already been filled. Lorraine has been planning this wedding for over a year. She will be sitting in the front row, helping with the dress, giving the toast. It would be confusing to have two mothers of the bride. I turned to Brooke, searching her face for some sign of the daughter I knew. Is this what you want? To have his mother stand in my place? Brooke would not meet my eyes. I just want today to go smoothly, Mama. Please do not make this harder than it needs to be. Derek put a hand on Brooke's shoulder. Why do not you go back inside, sweetheart? I will handle this. Brooke nodded, still not looking at me, and disappeared into the house. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like the end of the world. Derek stepped closer to me, lowering his voice. Listen, I am going to be straight with you because someone should be. Brooke loves you. In her own way, she does, but she also wants to leave her past behind. She wants to be someone new, someone who fits into my world. You remind her of everything she is trying to escape. Escape, I raised her. I loved her. Her father and I gave her everything we had. I know. And the $63,000 you promised, that was incredibly generous. Brooke appreciates it, we both do, but you have to understand in her mind that money was the exchange. You give her a financial foundation for her new life, and in return you gracefully step back from the life itself. That is not how love works. That is not how family works. Derek shrugged. Maybe not in your world, but in this world, relationships are transactional. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for everyone. He glanced at his watch, a heavy gold thing that probably cost more than my car. I need to get ready. The ceremony starts at 2. If you want to stay for it, there are seats in the back. Far back. Try not to draw attention to yourself. He turned and went inside, closing the door firmly behind him. I stood there for a long moment, unable to move. The sun was shining, birds were singing. Somewhere on the property, a string quartet was practicing. It was a beautiful morning, the kind of morning every bride dreams of for her wedding day. And I had never felt so cold in my life. I do not remember walking back to my car. The next thing I knew, I was sitting behind the wheel, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles had gone white. I was not crying. I was beyond crying. I was in a state of shock so profound that tears seemed irrelevant. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Margaret. I answered without thinking. Janie, how is it going? Is Brooke beautiful in her dress? I opened my mouth, but no words came out, just a strangled sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Janie, what is wrong? Talk to me. So I told her. Sitting in my car on a street in Charlotte, North Carolina, I told my sister everything. The look on Brooke's face when she saw me, the things Derek said, the realization that my daughter had never intended for me to actually attend her wedding. Margaret listened in silence. When I finished, she said a word I will not repeat. I knew it, she continued. I knew something was wrong. The way she has been treating you, the distance, the cancelled visits. Janie, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. What do I do? I whispered. Margaret, what do I do? You come home, you get in that car, and you drive home, and you let me take care of you. I cannot just leave. She is still my daughter. It is still her wedding day. A wedding you were not invited to. A wedding where you have been told to sit in the back and not draw attention to yourself. Janie, listen to me. You deserve better than this. Harold would be devastated if he saw how Brooke is treating you. At the mention of Harold's name, something broke inside me. The tears finally came streaming down my face, ruining the makeup I had so carefully applied. He would be devastated, I agreed. He worked so hard for that money. We both did. 25 years, Margaret. 25 years of sacrificing so we could give our daughter a beautiful future. I know, honey, I know. I sat there crying for a while, my sister's voice a comfort in my ear. Finally, the tears slowed and something else began to take their place. Not peace exactly, something harder, something with an edge. The money, I said slowly, the $63,000. What about it? I have not transferred it yet. I was going to do it this morning as a wedding gift, but the wedding, Margaret, the wedding is not what I thought it was. You are damn right it is not. If I send that money, it is like agreeing to their terms. It is like admitting that my only value as a mother is financial, that I can be bought off paid to stay away. Janie, what are you thinking? I was thinking of Harold, of all those overtime hours he worked coming home exhausted, but smiling because he knew every dollar was going toward Brooke's future. I was thinking of all the things we went without all the sacrifices we made gladly because we loved our daughter. That money was not a transaction. It was a labor of love, and love was not something to be bargained with. I am going to cancel the transfer, I said. I set it up to go through on the wedding day, but it has not processed yet. I can still stop it. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Are you sure that is a big decision? Once you do that, there is no going back. I know, but I cannot let them have it, Margaret. Not like this. Not as payment for making me disappear. Then do it. Do it now before you change your mind. I hung up with Margaret and called my bank. It took a while to get through to verify my identity, to explain what I needed. But finally, the representative confirmed that the scheduled transfer had been cancelled. The $63,000 would stay in my account. When I hung up, I felt something I had not expected. Relief. Like I had reclaimed a small piece of my dignity in a situation where I had been stripped of almost everything else. I sat in the car watching people come and go from the mansion, guests arriving in designer outfits, more catering trucks, a photographer setting up on the lawn. My daughter was getting married today, and I was sitting in a car on the street, uninvited and unwanted. I should have driven away then. I should have pointed my Camry toward Montana and not looked back. But I could not. Not yet. I needed to understand. I needed to see with my own eyes what had become of my daughter. So I stayed. I watched the ceremony from a distance, standing behind a tree at the edge of the property where no one would notice me. I saw Brooke walk down the aisle on the arm of Derek's father, not Harold, not even me. I saw Lorraine dab at her eyes in the front row, playing the proud mother. I saw Derek slide a ring onto my daughter's finger. I stayed until the ceremony ended and the guests began moving toward the reception tent. Then I finally left. The hotel room felt like a tomb that night. I sat in the dark, unable to bring myself to turn on a light or the television or anything that might distract me from my pain. Through the thin walls, I could hear distant sounds, music, probably from the reception, laughter, celebration. Somewhere out there, my daughter was dancing at her wedding, surrounded by people who mattered more to her than the woman who gave her life. My phone buzzed, a text from Brooke. Did you cancel the money transfer? Derek's dad says the payment did not go through. I stared at the message for a long time. No, how are you? No, sorry about earlier. Just straight to the money. I did not reply. An hour later, my phone rang. Brooke's number. I answered. Hello, Mama. Her voice was slurred. She had been drinking. Mama, what happened to the money? I cancelled the transfer. You what? Why would you do that? Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Derek's family was counting on that money to cover the venue. I thought the money was my way of celebrating from afar, I said quietly. That is what Derek told me, but if I am not welcome at the celebration, why would I contribute to it? This is not fair, Brooke whined. You cannot just pull out like this. You promised. I promised to support my daughter's wedding. I drove 900 miles to be part of your special day. You told me I was not welcome. You had another woman stand in my place. So no, Brooke. I am not giving $63,000 to a wedding I was not allowed to attend. You are being petty, maybe, or maybe I am finally standing up for myself. Mama, you do not understand. Lorraine is furious. She is saying all kinds of things about you, about our family. You are making me look bad. I am making you look bad, Brooke. You told me I would embarrass you. You said I do not fit into your world. You had your new mother-in-law walk you down the aisle instead of asking me, how exactly am I the one making you look bad? Silence on the other end. Then Brooke started to cry. You never supported me, she sobbed. You never understood what I needed all those years in that tiny house with Dad working himself to death, and you at your stupid library job. I hated it. I hated being poor. I hated wearing second-hand clothes and never having nice things. Derek's family showed me what life could be like, and I wanted that. I deserved that. And now you are ruining everything. Each word was a knife in my heart, but I kept my voice steady. Your father and I gave you everything we had, I said. Every sacrifice we made was for you. That tiny house, those second-hand clothes, that stupid library job. They were all so you could have a better future. We loved you more than our own lives, Brooke. If that was not enough for you, I am sorry, but I will not apologize for who we were or what we gave you. I cannot talk to you when you are like this, Brooke said. I have to go. Derek's mother needs me. Of course she does, I said. Good night, Brooke. Congratulations on your wedding. I hung up before she could respond. A few hours later, my phone rang again, a number I did not recognize. Hello, Mrs. Patterson. This is Carly. I do not know if you remember me. I was Brooke's roommate in college. Carly, yes, of course I remember you. You came to Montana that one summer. That is right. I am so glad you remember. She paused. I am at the wedding, or I was. I just left. I could not take it anymore. What do you mean? The way they are talking about you? Derek's family, I mean. Lorraine keeps making these snide comments, and Brooke is not defending you at all. It made me sick. I sighed. I appreciate you telling me, Carly, but it is not really a surprise. I know, but I feel like you should know the whole story about what has been going on with Brooke. What do you mean? Carly took a deep breath. I have known Brooke for almost 10 years. She was my best friend in college, and I have watched her change since she started dating Derek. It is like she has been brainwashed. Brainwashed. She is a piece of work. From the beginning, she made it clear that Brooke was not good enough for her precious son. The only way Brooke could prove herself was to completely remake herself. New clothes, new friends, new interests, and most importantly, cutting ties with her old life, her real life. Including me, especially you. Lorraine saw you as a threat, a reminder of where Brooke came from. She convinced Brooke that having a small-town librarian mother would hold her back socially, that if people knew about her working-class background, she would never be accepted. My stomach churned, and Brooke believed her. Brooke wanted to believe her. She wanted so badly to fit in to be one of them, and the only way to do that was to pretend her real family did not exist. I thanked Carly for calling, for caring enough to reach out. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness processing everything I had learned. My daughter had not just grown distant. She had been systematically pulled away from me by a woman who saw me as an obstacle, and Brooke had let it happen, had wanted it to happen. At 3 in the morning, I called Margaret. She answered on the first ring. Janie, are you okay? No, I said. I am not okay. But I think I understand now. And I know what I need to do. What is that? I am going back to that house at dawn. I am going to say goodbye to my daughter, really say goodbye. And then I am going home. Do you want me to fly out? I can be there in a few hours. No, this is something I have to do alone. We talked for a while longer, and Margaret helped me find a small piece of calm in the chaos. She reminded me of who I was, of what I had survived, of the strength I had shown throughout my life. You are the strongest woman I know, she said. Harold used to say that all the time, and he was right. When we finally said goodnight, I sat by the window and watched the sky begin to lighten. Dawn was coming, and with it, my last chance to reach my daughter. I arrived at the mansion at 6 in the morning. The party was over, but evidence of the celebration remained: empty champagne bottles, wilted flower arrangements, a banner that read, "Just Married," hanging crookedly from the front gate. I rang the doorbell and waited. Lorraine answered. She was still in her silk pajamas, her face bare of makeup, her hair dishevelled. Without her armour of designer clothes and perfect grooming, she looked older, smaller, almost human. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "The wedding is over. You missed it." I know. I watched from a distance. I would like to speak to my daughter. Your daughter is sleeping. She and Derek had a long night. I am sure they did, but this cannot wait. Lorraine's eyes narrowed. If this is about the money, you should know we have already made other arrangements. We do not need your charity. This is not about the money. This is about saying what I should have said a long time ago. Something in my voice must have given her pause. She studied me for a moment, then stepped aside. Fine, 5 minutes, then I want you gone. I walked into the house. It was even more impressive inside than out. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than my entire savings. This was the world my daughter had chosen over me. Lorraine led me to a sitting room and told me to wait. A few minutes later, Brooke appeared. She looked terrible. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair tangled, her face pale and drawn. The radiant bride of yesterday was nowhere to be seen. "What do you want, Mama?" she asked wearily. "I want to talk, really talk, without Derek listening, without Lorraine interrupting, just you and me, mother and daughter, one last time." Brooke sighed heavily, but sat down across from me. "Fine, talk." I took a deep breath and began. "I want to tell you about the drive here. 900 miles. 3 days. I had a lot of time to think, to remember. I thought about the day you were born, how your father cried when he held you. I thought about all those bedtime stories, all those camping trips, all those Sunday mornings making pancakes together." Brooke shifted uncomfortably, but did not interrupt. "I thought about the day you left for college, how I cried the whole drive home because the house felt so empty without you. I thought about your father's last words, how he made me promise to take care of you, to make sure you always knew how much you were loved." My voice cracked, but I pushed on. And then I thought about the last 3 years, how the calls got shorter and less frequent, how you stopped visiting, how you became someone I did not recognize. I told myself you were just busy, just growing up, just building your own life, but that was not the truth, was it? Brooke looked away. "Mama, the truth is that you were ashamed of me, of your father, of everything we gave you. You wanted to erase us so you could become someone new, someone worthy of this." I gestured at the opulent room around us. "You do not understand," Brooke said quietly. "Then help me understand." Brooke was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Do you know what it is like to grow up poor in a world that worships money, to wear clothes from Goodwill, while other kids had designer labels? To tell people your dad was a carpenter when their dads were doctors and lawyers? We were not poor, Brooke. We had everything we needed." "No, Mama, we had everything you needed. I wanted more. I deserved more. And when I finally found a way to get it, I took it. I am not going to apologize for wanting a better life. A better life? I repeated. Better than being loved unconditionally. Better than parents who would have done anything for you. Better than a home where you were always welcome, always wanted, always cherished. You just do not get it. Maybe not. But I will tell you what I do get. I get that I spent 25 years of my life sacrificing for you. I get that your father worked himself into an early grave so you could have opportunities we never had. I get that every dollar in that $63,000 represents our love, our hope, our dreams for your future. I stood up, my legs trembling but my voice steady. I came here to give you this. I pulled the music box from my purse. Brooke stared at it, recognition flickering in her eyes. "Grandma's music box," she whispered. "Every woman in our family has received this on her wedding day. My grandmother gave it to my mother. My mother gave it to me. I was going to give it to you." I opened the lid, and the familiar melody filled the room. For a moment, I was transported back to my own childhood, sitting on my grandmother's lap while she hummed along. But I have changed my mind. I closed the lid. This music box belongs to a family that values love over money, connection over status, authenticity over appearance. Until you remember who you are and where you came from, you are not ready to receive it. Brooke's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, please. The door to our home in Montana is always open. If you ever want to come back to remember the girl you used to be, I will be there. But I will not chase you anymore, Brooke. I will not beg for scraps of your attention. I will not pay for the privilege of being your mother." I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. "I love you. I will always love you. Nothing you do can change that. But love does not mean accepting abuse. Love does not mean erasing yourself to make someone else comfortable. Your father taught me that. I wish I had learned it sooner." I looked at Lorraine, who had been standing in the doorway, listening. "You think money can buy everything," I said to her. "But you are wrong. It cannot buy loyalty. It cannot buy authenticity. And it cannot buy the bond between a mother and daughter. One day, when you are old and alone, you will understand that. I hope for your sake it is not too late." I walked out the front door and did not look back. Behind me, I heard Brooke call out, "Mama, Mama, wait." But I kept walking, down the driveway, past the wilted flowers and empty champagne bottles, past the "Just Married" banner flapping in the early morning breeze. I got into my car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I could see Brooke standing in the doorway, one hand raised as if reaching for something she had already lost. I pulled away. The sun was just coming up, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was the beginning of a new day, the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I had 900 miles ahead of me, 900 miles to grieve, to heal, to find myself again. I turned on the radio. An old song came on, one of Harold's favourites. I smiled through my tears. "I hear you, honey," I whispered. "I hear you." And I drove toward home. The journey back to Montana took 3 days, same as the journey out, but this time felt different, slower somehow, more contemplative. Each mile was a small act of healing, a tiny step away from pain and toward peace. I stopped in Colorado to see Margaret. She met me at the door of her little house in Denver with open arms, and I collapsed into them. For the first time since leaving Charlotte, I let myself truly fall apart. Margaret held me while I cried. She made me tea and soup and forced me to eat even when I said I was not hungry. She listened while I talked sometimes for hours, processing everything that had happened. "I keep wondering where I went wrong," I told her one night. "What did I do to make her hate me so much?" "You did not do anything wrong," Margaret said firmly. "Brooke made her own choices. She is responsible for those choices, not you. But I must have failed her somehow, otherwise why would she—" "Janie, stop. You were a wonderful mother. Harold was a wonderful father. You gave that girl everything two parents could give. The fact that she threw it away is her loss, not your failure. Before I left Denver, Margaret hugged me tight. "You are going to be okay," she said. "You are stronger than you know." Harold always said that, and he was right. The last stretch of the drive across Wyoming and into Montana felt like coming home in more ways than one. As the familiar mountains appeared on the horizon, I felt something loosen in my chest. This was my place. This was where I belonged. My house was exactly as I had left it. The same creaky porch steps, the same faded paint, the same roses blooming in the garden Harold had planted. I stood in the driveway for a long moment, just looking at it. It was not a mansion. It was not impressive or elegant or noteworthy in any way. But it was mine. It was ours. And it was full of love. The first few days were hard. I moved through the house like a ghost, touching familiar objects, drowning in memories. I would find myself in Brooke's old room, staring at her things, wondering if she ever thought about the childhood she was so eager to forget. Eventually, I made a decision. I could not keep this room as a shrine to a daughter who did not want me. I needed to reclaim the space, to transform it into something that served my present instead of haunting me with my past. Over the course of a week, I boxed up Brooke's things and put them in the attic. Then I painted the walls a soft sage green, brought in my favourite armchair from the living room, and filled the shelves with books. My own little reading nook. The first time I sat in there with a cup of tea and a novel, I cried, but they were different tears than before. Cleansing tears, healing tears. 3 months passed. I returned to work at the library, grateful for the routine and the distraction. My co-workers were gentle with me, asking how I was doing without prying into details. I appreciated their kindness more than I could express. I started doing things I had put off for years. I joined a book club that met every Tuesday evening. I signed up for a gardening class at the community centre. I adopted a cat, a fluffy orange tabby I named Marmalade, who liked to curl up on my lap while I read. Slowly, the acute pain of Brooke's betrayal faded into something duller. Not gone, never gone, but manageable. I learned to live with it the way you learn to live with a chronic ache. Some days were harder than others, but most days I was okay. And then there was the matter of the money. $63,000, still sitting in my account, untouched. At first I could not bear to think about it. It felt contaminated, somehow tainted by everything that had happened. But one day, an idea came to me. I was at the library, helping a young woman find resources for college applications. She was a first-generation student, smart and ambitious, but terrified of the financial realities ahead of her. "I do not know how I will afford it," she said. "Even with loans, it seems impossible." And suddenly, I knew exactly what to do with the money. I contacted a lawyer and set up a scholarship fund, the Harold Patterson Memorial Scholarship for first-generation college students from working-class families. The $63,000 would provide the seed money, and I committed to adding to it every year for the rest of my life. The first scholarship was awarded in the spring. A young man named Marcus, whose father was a mechanic and whose mother worked at a grocery store. He was going to be the first person in his family to attend a 4-year university. At the awards ceremony, Marcus hugged me and thanked me with tears in his eyes. "You do not know what this means to me," he said. "You are changing my life." I thought about Harold. I thought about all those years of saving, of sacrificing, of dreaming about our daughter's future. The money had not gone where we intended, but it was still doing what we always wanted. It was giving a young person a chance at a better life. "Your father would be so proud," I told Marcus. "Work hard. Be kind. Never forget where you came from." It was the same advice I would have given Brooke, the advice she had chosen not to follow. One evening in late October, almost exactly a year after the wedding, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Brooke's name. I stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. "Hello, Mama." Her voice was small, broken, nothing like the confident woman who had shut a door in my face. "Brooke, is everything okay?" A long pause. Then, no, nothing is okay. She started to cry. Through her sobs, the story came out in pieces. Derek had been having an affair. Multiple affairs, apparently. Brooke had found out 3 months ago when one of the women contacted her directly. She sent me pictures, Brooke said, and texts. Hundreds of texts between them going back to before we were even married. When Brooke confronted Derek, he did not deny it. Instead, he got angry, told her she was lucky to have him, that she should have known what she was signing up for, that women like her women from her background should be grateful for whatever they could get. And his mother, Brooke's voice cracked. Lorraine blamed me. She said if I had been a better wife, Derek would not have strayed. She said I was always an embarrassment to the family, that Derek only married me because I was pretty and pliable too. Oh, Brooke, I am filing for divorce. I have already talked to a lawyer. But Mama, I do not know what to do. I do not have anywhere to go. I do not have any money of my own. Derek controlled everything. I do not even have friends anymore. Everyone I knew was connected to him. I listened to my daughter cry and felt my heart break all over again. Not for myself this time, but for her, for the little girl who used to believe in fairy tales, who had chased a glittering dream only to find it was made of glass and lies. You can come home, I said. The door has always been open. It always will be. After everything I did, after how I treated you, you would still take me back. I thought about all the pain of the past year, the slammed door, the cruel words, the feeling of being erased from my own daughter's life. Part of me wanted to hold on to that pain to make her earn my forgiveness through suffering. But that was not who I was. That was not what Harold would have wanted. You are my daughter, I said simply. Nothing you do can change that. I love you, Brooke. I have always loved you. Come home. There was a long silence. Then quietly, thank you, Mama. Thank you. We talked for a while longer, working out logistics. Brooke would need a few weeks to finalize things in Charlotte. Then she would come to Montana. We would figure out the rest together. After we hung up, I sat on my porch and watched the sun set behind the mountains. Marmalade jumped into my lap, purring contentedly. I did not know what the future held, whether Brooke and I could truly repair our relationship, or whether too much damage had been done, whether she had really learned from her mistakes, or whether she would fall back into old patterns. But I knew one thing. I was willing to try, not because Brooke deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I deserved to know that I had done everything in my power to keep the door open, even when it would have been easier to lock it forever. That night, I dreamed of Harold. He was standing in our garden, surrounded by his roses, smiling at me the way he used to. You did good, Janie, he said. I am proud of you. When I woke up, I was crying, but they were good tears, grateful tears. I looked up at the ceiling and whispered, thank you, Harold, for everything. For teaching me how to love and how to let go and how to find my way back. A week later, a shooting star streaked across the Montana sky. I watched it from my porch, marmalade warm in my lap, and I made a wish. Not for Brooke to change, not for the past to be different, just for the strength to face whatever came next with an open heart. Sometimes the longest journeys do not take us to new places. They take us back to where we started, older and wiser and more ourselves than ever before. I drove 900 miles to my daughter's wedding and discovered that home was not a destination. Home was where I had been all along, waiting, ready, open, and that was enough. Before I say goodbye, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against someone you loved? Have you ever had to choose between your dignity and keeping the peace? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you have not already, I hope you will subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening, for caring, for being part of this community. May you always know your worth. May you always find your way home. And may you always remember that the people who truly love you will never ask you to be less than who you are. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. Until next time.